up, Super Fun Force, Captain Gamesta, and guys, it's time to catch up for the anime that I've been watching. I've got a lot to talk about, but I'll keep it brief, relatively brief. So as you guys know, I've been watching One Piece, so I've transitioned into the Wano arc. Finally, I used to keep up with One Piece from again, late 90s, and I started watching all the anime, keeping up with it, throughout the years, the decades, even until around the Don Flamingo arc when they went to Dressrosa. I was also getting to the point where I didn't want to catch up per se to have to wait for episodes. So I just waited for 2 years before I started watching it again, and then I went back and finished Dressrosa, and then now it's again it's been a little bit of a break, but now I'm going to finish the Wano arc. So starting off with One Piece, guys. Again, I'm easing back into it. I did kind of watch a few episodes, but now again I wanted to refresh my memory, take some time with it, and it turned out to be fantastic. They had this little side arc where they fought against the carbonated guy, which wasn't that bad. Interesting characters, kind of funny, in the kind of whimsical One Piece way. And then, of course, Reverie is happening now. So Reverie is when some of the most important people gather, like Princess Mihoshi, I forgot, the mermaid princess, being one of the main standout characters. So I like how they put a little bit more backstory into her. I like how she's also more of a giant character. You think of mermaids generally in fantasy as being, humanoid size, right? But she's kind of I wouldn't really say a giant, but she's the size of maybe, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 people. She's really tall. So very interesting twist there. And then we get to see more of the corruption from the Celestials, man. The Celestial Dragon people, they got to be stopped for sure, man. They are just so bad. And then, of course, now that they've gotten to Wano, I finished the first, not really arc, but the kind of the mini arc with Otama. And again, without spoiling too much, how she was waiting for Ace. And that was pretty sad, right? And then, of course, she ends up meeting Luffy. Luffy has to save her at this point. They're getting deeper into Wano, where they're going up against... Okay, so they have the headliners, which are, not just the regular kind of foot soldier, generic fighters. They're getting to be a little bit more stronger. I know there's there's Speed, and then the one that's... Speed is kind of like the Centaur lady. It's like a Centaur goat or something like that. The one I'm looking forward to seeing, though, is Hold'em. Hold'em is the one that they just showed. I'm pretty much at the episode where Hold'em is introduced. And then you see the creature that he's wearing on his belt, the skeleton. So that's really interesting. So that's where we are with One Piece. Again, it's very interesting to see after all this time, they're focusing it down back into Japanese lore, because again, this is very, very heavily inspired by Japanese culture, like samurai, feudal era. So all good. I'm curious to see it. I mean, again, I really liked Rurouni Kenshin, samurais and ninjas, and that whole historic fantasy time period is always super fascinating and fun. All right, so jumping over to two more really quick. As you know, I am watching Dragon Ball Z, Zeto, and Dragon Ball GT. So I really went a lot into Dragon Ball GT, so I'm just going to talk about the few episodes I've been watching for Z, because I'm thinking of also pivoting between Z. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to finish Z with the Cell games, and then the Buu, and then I'm actually going to go back later on and watch Dragon Ball Kai, right? And that'll be interesting to watch Kai from the beginning, to see the Saiyan saga again, Piccolo, Namek, and all that stuff, but to be more condensed, right? And I guess re-edited. Anyways, so Cell games, I'm still really, really enjoying it. I liked to see Gohan's childhood with Lime, and introducing that character for a little bit in the village. Reintroduction of Mercenary Tao, all cyborg. Oh, that was really surprising. Obviously, he didn't play a big part, but it was cool to see him again. And it was unsurprising, or not unsurprising. It was surprising when he realized he was going up against the Saiyans. I didn't expect that to happen. The way it did, basically, the way it unfolded. And then, of course, the military. Throwing in a little bit of realism into there. The Earth Defense Force, the military, tried to attack Cell, and of course they failed miserably. And of course, it's angered Goku and stuff like that. And the Z Warriors are watching how the humans are just helplessly being destroyed by Cell. So yeah, it's really building up. It's about to go down. Cell has his arena out there. when he was attacked, he just kind of like flew off to the mountains because he was like, oh, I don't want them to destroy my, my stadium arena that I built, for the tournament. But anyways, it's about to go down, so I'll follow up with that next week to tell you guys how it's going, the Cell games. I'm looking forward to it because again, Goku is so relaxed. Every time they're asking him like, "Hey man, you're not training anymore. You're just relaxed in this Super Saiyan state. You sure everything's gonna be okay?" He's like, "It's fine. It's fine. Everything will work out. Don't worry." So very very curious, and of course Gohan is definitely really really strong here, so that'll be fun. So ending off with GT, I watched almost the entire first season. I think I only have maybe 3 episodes left. And I want to talk about it sooner, but the thing about GT, I really, really like it. I don't understand where all this, negative, criticism comes from. I think that happens with a lot of anime that's like maybe retro, not fully understood. Maybe a lot of people don't even watch it, or I think what happens is they watch a series or an anime with like the wrong expectations, the wrong perspective, maybe the wrong mindset. So, in a nutshell, quick history about me. So when I was growing up, like I mentioned before, I was watching Dragon Ball Z, and I was only getting to watch it through Chinese dubs. So I was mostly admiring, like I was kind of ignoring the story a little bit, but I was admiring the character designs and the animation. And basically, sometimes my friends would explain to me what was happening, and what the general story was, right? So it wasn't until later on that I figured out like what the Dragon Balls were, who the characters really were in relation to one another, and then once it became a little bit more available in America, I was able to pick up more of the story, and then throughout the years I've just basically picked up pieces, online, watching YouTube, reading, posts and stuff like that, forums. So now I'm happy to be able to have been watching it now and re-absorbing the lore, but just from the source, from my own perspective, my own opinion, and like I said, as I mentioned, I remember too, like in the late '90s when GT came out, there was no internet, so we didn't really know what people were thinking of it. I still knew that it was very popular because still Dragon Ball was showing up everywhere. There were a lot of like, comic shops, underground stores, like, you see more of them now, but there were like mom and pop shop stores, like in my mall that would carry like import Japanese anime figures. So they would have sections of like, Goku, and basically like, that's where I first started seeing figures for like SS4 and like Super Baby, and I was all like, "Whoa, who are these characters? I wish I could get access to this." And I mean, I just remember, I guess it was getting a little more difficult at the time. I didn't really have as many friends that were into anime that were basically able to get it from the source. I only had maybe one or two, but most of my friends at that time were like me, where we were just trying to get things from like fan subs, from like conventions, whatever. It was kind of difficult for us to get them from, Japan or China or anything like that. But anyways, so going back and watching GT, I can just say like it just really for me it still captures the essence of the original Dragon Ball. So the other thing is I watched in the 2000s. I was able to get all the original Dragon Ball on DVD, so I watched it from the very very beginning, and I really liked the original Dragon Ball because it was like a different kind of like JRPG. It was like the mix of like D&D with anime. It was just incredible, like modern day too, like fantasy and sci-fi, but still kind of modern, right? And then Dragon Ball Z continued that. So GT basically took it to that whole new, like, really, really opened up the world to become like space sci-fi RPG, right? Of like, we already obviously knew about Saiyans and like the Namekians and stuff like that, and then eventually the Majin race. But now it's like, where I'm at right now, Planet M2, more machine mutants, just a bunch of various random like races out there, and just like interstellar travel. So it's almost like elements of like Star Trek and Star Wars meets the original Dragon Ball. So it's not really about Dragon Ball Z. I think the problem is when people watch the Dragon Ball Z, it became very like fighting tournament. Like I'm Goku, and here's Vegeta, and then here's like Nappa, and then like now he's taking on Raditz, and then he's gonna take on the androids, and then Cell, and then Boo, and it's like it feels like a fighting game type of anime, right? Like Street Fighter, where there's still character development, plot development, but it's very much like Goku gets stronger, the Z Warriors get stronger, they evolve. They learn fusion techniques, or they learn, they get the Chamber of Spirit and Time, and they train more. And it's like get better, fight, get better, fight, get better, fight. And then GT kind of took it back to Dragon Ball, where Dragon Ball was like, you know, Goku and Bulma, befriended like Yamcha. They're searching, going on like an RPG adventure on the quest. They meet Chi Chi, Ox King, gathering the Dragon Balls. Going up against like the shenanigans of Pilaf, and they meet Oolong, and a lot of comedy in there. And it isn't until the very, very end of Dragon Ball that after they reintroduce like Master Roshi and then Krillin, and then they train for the first tournament, that it becomes that more like fighting style storyline, right? Which is still awesome, right? That's when they introduce like Jackie Chun, Mercenary Tao, the Red Ribbon Army. They still put elements to make it feel like an RPG, but it was like one arc was just about a tournament. But it felt like Dragon Ball Z was always about the tournament, right? It's always about like, not really like a tournament until Cell games, but it became more about just like fighting. Like I said, fighting, battling, becoming the strongest. So GT, I think if you watch it with that mindset, you will be disappointed. You're going to be like, what is this? But if you understand the core of Dragon Ball is like still adventuring and RPG, and the fighting element becomes more and more integrated, then you'll enjoy it. Because that's what I'm seeing. It's cool because they've gone on a fun adventure, the quests again, recapturing the spirit of Dragon Ball. This time Pan, and then I really like the twist on how like Trunks is like this super like successful CEO like businessman, and then Goku's still training with Oob, and that's the only thing I guess that's kind of sad and disappointing. We don't get to see much of Oob. And then Pan is like taking on the reins because Gohan is still raising his family, with Videl, and still more concerned about his Earthling life. He's not like a fighter like his father. He doesn't really want to go adventuring, whatever. So all good. But there's still the problem of Goten missing. Otherwise, I think what people also don't realize, Akira Toriyama himself has pretty much endorsed Dragon Ball GT. Like it's almost considered canon, but like I said, it doesn't mix in because of like the issue with like Goten and then like Trunks and Pan, and then some of the stuff that happens like in Super and like Z doesn't really seem to exist in GT, so that's the only issue there. But other than that, Akira Toriyama said he enjoyed it thoroughly. He watched all of it. He was super impressed. He liked the character designs because they were very similar to what he said he would create, but it was fresh enough to make him be excited for it. And to him, it felt like a grand side quest story of Dragon Ball, which, again, that's the kind of mindset you should watch it as. The first season has them going and chasing the Dragon Balls, getting into like some funny, hilarious situations, and then it becomes a little bit more Dragon Ball Z-ish once they get to Planet M2, which is where this is ending now. So I got to the part where they fought against Rildo. We've seen Dr. Mew, and oh my goodness, for the first time ever, I've seen the anime with Baby, so I'm finally getting to understand just who, Baby is, and the villain, the Machine Mutants, all of that. So super excited, guys. That's where I'm at with Dragon Ball GT. So again, those are the three that I'm mainly watching right now, and maybe as I go along with more episodes, I'll talk about some of the other anime I've watched recently, just to kind of recap on them, just because I know that it'd be interesting to get your perspectives and to share my perspectives, because I might not watch them again for a long time, and especially some of the ones that are, like I actually just watched Spy Family last year, or maybe late last year, early this year. So maybe I'll talk about that when season 2 comes out. Anyways, yeah, so there you guys go. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think, again, about, Dragon Ball Z, Cell games, and then, of course, Dragon Ball GT Season 1, and One Piece, the Wano arc. All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Don't forget, keep your face safe, friends, spread that love, be positive, be thankful. I'll be coming back at you.